and welcome to this review of my IBM Model F 122 key terminal keyboard. It's from 1986, as you might expect, and it's a true monolith from outer space. A great number of companies made 122 key terminal keyboards based directly on this layout, and because of their colossally gargantuan size, these 122 key keyboards are generally referred to as battleships. However, not only is this thing of utterly mammoth proportions, it's also incredibly heavy. This is a first generation Model M, the heaviest type they ever made, with the thickest steel plate in it. This one actually predates the other keyboard too. And let's see how much it weighs. Let's pop that on the scales. There you go. So, about 2.4 kilos. That's very heavy. That's even heavier than the NTC I reviewed 2 reviews ago. Very impressive. And now for the battleship. Are you ready? Let's go. Pop that on. There you go. And I'll suspend the cable as well, otherwise it's not completely fair. And there you go. That's almost 4 kilos. Jesus, tap dancing Christ, that's insane. The origin of this weight quickly becomes clear when you look at what the keyboard is made out of, though. There is metal in this thing everywhere. The back panel, the mounting plate, everywhere. The case is thick plastic. It's pretty sturdy, but it's been reported to be somewhat vulnerable to cracking, even though this one is in excellent condition. It's very clean, there's no cracks or scuff marks anywhere. There's almost no dust and only a few marks along the back panel. I'll show you that in a bit. The biggest issue is that the stabilizer clips on the spacebar appear to have broken off, so it's a little bit wobbly. Like that. It still registers fine, but it makes a quite rattly sound. Overall, I'm extremely happy with the condition of this keyboard though, especially for a keyboard this old. Here is the back of the keyboard. As you can see, there are a few small scuff marks on the casing, but overall nothing major. And here is the model sticker. Part number 6110347, made, as I mentioned before, in 1986. It's got solid flip-out feet that are controlled by this push button here. You push it and then you can elevate the feet out of the keyboards like this. Spring loaded, as you can tell, and it's got 2 settings, but even the smallest setting elevates the keyboard more than any other feet I've seen so far, and the large feet elevate it more even than the giant monopod on the Apple Extended 2. For reference, this is what it looks like with the large feet extended, which is pretty ridiculous. The keyboard, as with most IBM keyboards, uses buckling springs, but unlike the later and much more well-known Model M, it doesn't have a set of membranes, it uses a capacitive PCB instead. The spring and flipper are also a bit different. The spring has more turns, and the flipper is much larger, and all this has several consequences. First of all, the sound is very different. The Model M is well known for the noise it makes as the springs buckle, which gives a characteristic ping to them, which I'll show you on this kind of average Model M here. It's a bit pingy, but the overall sound is still mostly thocky though. It's deep and strong. But the sound of the Model F is very different. It's much more high-pitched and pingy and not really thocky at all. It sounds more like this. You can really hear the springs vibrate. Really big difference. It's possibly even louder than the Model M sound, and some people I showed it to found it a rather annoying sound, but personally I kinda like it. The key feel is different too. It's smooth, but much lighter and crisper than the Model M that came afterwards. I love typing on the Model M, but this thing is on another level entirely. It's a spectacular typing experience. It's a little bit like Blue Alps compared to White Alps. White Alps are great and don't feel like there's anything wrong with them until you use them side by side with Blue Alps. That's when you really notice the difference. Same with this, the Model M feels like it couldn't be much better until you try them next to one of these. My favorite switches are Blue Alp so far, and to see which of these two was better I had to put them head to head as well. So I broke out my trusty old Acer again, and I have to say I actually slightly prefer the typing feel of the Model F. The sound on the Blue Alps is still better though. As nice and pingy as the Model F sounds, the Blue Alps just sound exactly like a keyboard should, in my opinion. So overall, I would consider the Model F and Blue Alps to be shared best right now. The capacitive mechanism in this keyboard is much more durable than the membranes in the later Model M. It's rated to last at least 100 million key presses per key compared to 25 million key presses per key for the Model M. As far as how the mechanism works, I put together some pictures to show you. Sorry if they're not exactly Rembrandts, I just quickly whipped up some pictures in Microsoft Paint, but I hope at least they convey the message. A capacitive mechanism like this consists of two plates separated from each other by an insulator called a dielectric and hooked up to a power source. These capacitors can store a certain amount of charge depending on the size of the plates and the material the dielectric is made out of, among others. The capacitive mechanism in the Model F works by having a polarizable flipper above it. The plates are then hooked up to a power source and charged to a certain potential difference, negative charges moving to one plate and positive ones moving to the other. Now when the flipper moves on top of the plates, it becomes part of the dielectric, but it's much more polarizable. This means that the charges built up on the capacitor can polarize the charges on the flipper, and that in turn lowers the potential on the plates, which means that more positive and negative charges can join on the plates. This is called an increase of capacitance and is detected by the keyboard. Now another important thing to realize is that if you first fully charge the capacitor and then suddenly reverse the polarity of the system, the charged capacitor will first drain and then fully charge again to the inverse polarity. This means that if you keep reversing the polarity constantly, like when you use alternating current instead of direct current like we did before, you can actually have a constant current go through the system as the plates charge, decharge, and then recharge the opposite way around. However, if you use DC, the capacitor will first charge and then simply stop, which means DC can't move through a capacitive circuit. So capacitors are so-called high-pass filters. They let through high-frequency signals, but block low-frequency ones. And this has a profound effect on the system, because as a result, they more or less appear as diodes in a keyboard matrix, which means electrical signals can't find their way through unintended circuitry. Here's a scheme of a normal conductive keyboard matrix. Now let's say we press the keys A, S, and X simultaneously. Now suppose the keyboard polls column 1 by sending current through it. Because switch A is closed, the current can make its way through to row B, so the controller sees coordinate B1, which is A, so it knows the A key is depressed. However, because switch S is also closed, the current can make its way through to column 2 as well, and then through closed switch X through to row C, which would make the controller think it sees coordinate C1, which is Z, but Z isn't actually depressed. So in order to avoid ghosting, which is what this is called, it blocks the input, resulting in limited rollover. However, when you have capacitors in every switch and then press A, S, and X, when current is applied to column 1, the capacitance of switch A is increased, but switch S blocks the current, so no ghosting or blocking takes place. In other words, capacitive keyboards are immune to these issues and inherently have full N-key rollover, meaning that you can press as many keys together as you want and they will all register perfectly. The most recognizable feature of the keyboard is without a doubt the layout, which inspired many other terminal keyboards that look much like it. The Model M came in 2 terminal versions too, an oval badge one that had the same layout but a different case with a shorter top section that ran more from here to here, as well as a square badge version that looks almost completely identical to this one from the top. However, that one has the normal small feet of the Model M and a plastic rather than a metal back panel. All versions use this layout though, and they only ever appear to be ISO based, with an ISO style return key, a small left shift, and an extra key here. No terminal keyboard would be complete without some cryptic legends, and this one has them too, such as field exit, all kinds of things that look like backspaces, enter key that's here, and a reset cancel key, record, setup, play, all kinds of weird stuff, and a very large set of command keys at the top. A fair number of keys are unmarked too. They probably didn't do anything for the type of terminal this was supplied with. Virtually all IBM terminals come with a non-standard connector, either an RJ45 connector or this 240-degree 5-pin DIN connector, and they speak a different language, set 3, so they're not compatible with a normal PC. To fix this, you'll need an active converter that can handle these things, and the one I'd recommend, the one I'm using myself, is this one, which is from a seller that also makes converters for the RJ45 model, as well as one for the Model F XT and the PS2 Model M. The converter supports programming as well as macros, but you don't need to do any of that by default. They're all very high quality and completely plug and play. All you need to do is stick them in and they're ready to go. Check the link in the description below to have a look at his stuff. One of the good things about the converter is that it remaps the keyboard to a more or less standard layout. So these two keys are just control keys, for instance, and this is just a normal nav cluster, which is good because otherwise there would be no control or delete. So control alt delete wouldn't work and you wouldn't even be able to log into your computer with this thing. The numpad is a little bit different though, because there is no space to put the escape key where it normally is on keyboards. They had to put it somewhere else, and they remapped it to the top left of the numpad here, which is the same as on the Model F AT. Next to that is numlock, then scroll lock, I think this is asterisk, then minus, and then plus. There's no enter key on the numpad. There are also no secondary legends for any of the keys, but they work just like they normally would. The first 12 of the command keys are just the normal F keys, and the ones on top don't do anything, but they do send scan code, so if you want you can bind other keys or macros to them using that converter. The fun cluster on the left, however, doesn't appear to do anything, and it doesn't send scan codes either. Now, compared to the Model M, which has a very normal, standard, usable layout, this terminal layout is slightly weird, so generally people pound the terminal Model M in favor of the PC-compatible one, but this terminal Model F actually looks more like a normal layout than either the Model F XT or AT, so this one is quite popular with people who want a Model F in a more standard layout. It can even be converted to ANSI for those who actually like that sort of thing by switching springs and putting in an ANSI enter here and a backslash key here and then a longer shift here. Overall, this keyboard is very worth it. It's as sturdy as anything, the typing feel is beautiful, and it looks imposing as fuck. Very recommended. That's it for this review. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And here is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard.